The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Okay, so welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, everybody. This is take 3.
I've never heard that one before.
Haven't heard this for the 3rd time.
There we go.
This is a rough one.
Oh, Jesus. So yeah, I'm your host, JD, as always, and with me is my best bro, Kyle.
I'm the best bro, Kyle. I got my power back.
There you go. And Dustin is also here.
Hi, I don't have anything funny to say. I'm running out of witty one-liners.
So, just to give you a little insight or whatever, this is the 3rd time we've tried to record this show because apparently God doesn't want this show to exist.
Yeah, the first time we tried the other night, my laptop froze and I was unable to save it.
Yeah, we had gotten like an entire episode done, and then your laptop crashed, and we were like halfway through another one today, and then Kyle's power went out.
Yeah.
So
I forgot to pay my bills for 3 months.
Oh, jeez.
I just plumb forgot.
Oh, no.
It happens.
All right, so the topic that apparently God is forbidding us to do this week is we're talking about MTV animated cartoons, animated television shows. We have gathered a list of various shows from over the years, and we're just going to talk a little bit about them, because I don't know if any of these shows are something we could stretch into an hour. I'll put the disclaimer right now. We won't be talking about Clone High because we did an episode on that back in June that you can go and listen to. And we won't be doing Daria because Daria is an episode that'll be its own episode sometime in the future. So
I mean, don't get me wrong. I could talk about Clone High forever, for hours and hours. Well, probably not that long since it's just one season.
I mean,
you know, I would enjoy talking about it.
We'll just do a yearly Clone High episode where we just talk about say the same things over and over again.
The annual Clone High get together.
I like it. I dig it. Let's do that.
Oh man. At least we have all our thoughts organized for these shows
right.
by this point.
All right, so Dustin, you'll start us off again. Tell us about Liquid Television.
So, I know you guys probably don't know, since I haven't already told you guys twice, but Liquid Television is a show on MTV in the early 90s, and it was like a showcase for creatives to show off what they've created. Like, not just animation, but there were some live-action skits in there, too.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly animation, so I think it counts as, like, an animated show. But
yeah, definitely.
You know, there'd be some reoccurring skits, some one-shot skits. Most of them very weird, but most of them very, very cool to see. And, like, some creators that have made more of a name for themselves these days, like the Life with Loopy creator has some shorts on there. John Dilworth did some really cool ones, etc. And
he did Dirty Birdie.
Yeah,
he did do the Dirty Birdie, but that was for a show later on the list.
Oh,
okay,
then.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
I'm sorry, we haven't done it 2 times already. I forgot.
It's starting to run together.
Move on. But I really like Liquid Television. I love shows like this that are just a collection of ideas from different creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing what they come up with, what they make. Because like it covers a wide variety of styles, like 2D animation, live action, like I said, CGI animation. There's puppet shorts on there. So just so much variety of it. I really like it. I love these kind of variety shows.
It's just good to have stuff like this that don't have executive meddling behind it. It's just free as much as you want.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it is a good show to sum up what MTV was about at the time.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of MTV, especially in the early to mid 90s, are just like these just really off the wall kind of shows that no normal sane network would give a chance to. But they just threw any kind of oddball thing at the wall to see what would stick, and I think it worked out for the most part.
Kind of like early Adult Swim too. They were kind of doing the same thing for a while.
Yeah, a lot of MTV show are like a precursor to what Adult Swim would eventually become.
Yeah.
And what little I've seen of Liquid Television, I almost feel like is almost a precursor to just like internet animation now. If only in the sense that like nowadays anyone can make some kind of weird experimental short film and just put it up online for everyone to see. I mean, you don't really need a 30-minute anthology show on TV every week to get your stuff out there.
Yeah, you were saying earlier how it's way easier since people can just put them up on YouTube and everything, but right. I still kind of like having them all in like one nice block, like a show dedicated to showcasing these.
It was like back in that day, people would record it and then trade VHSs of like different shorts and stuff. Because that's what they said was going on with like the South Park pilot or the Christmas card thing.
That's right.
That's how that word of mouth got around.
Yeah. Because like, even though you can, put your shorts up on YouTube and everything, that doesn't necessarily help it gain traction that much. I feel like Liquid Television was a good way to put it on TV, put it on a big, popular network for people to watch and see.
And millions of people are going to see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess Liquid Television did well ratings-wise. I think it got like 3 seasons.
And a reboot.
That's true. That brings me to the reboot they did a few years ago, which I've already explained, but I'm sure you guys aren't sick of it by now. But
this is going to be a common theme for tonight.
Sorry, I hope it's not a problem that I'm like peeling the curtain back for people to see all the behind-the-scenes warts. and
if you've ever tried to record a podcast, it's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yeah. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So the reboot, MTV made 5 new Liquid Television episodes made by Titmouse Animation Studios in 2014, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
They put them all up on YouTube. Same sort of deal, just a variety of different animation styles, and it was really cool. There's one in particular called Disco Destroyer that I was super into. I love the style of it. Oh, it's super cool. I wish it got turned into its own show. I'd watch it. I'll link you guys after this because it's super neato.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a watch. I've never really watched the old Liquid Television. You were streaming some a couple weeks ago, and it was interesting. It's definitely weird, the variety you can get in a given episode.
It's really hard to find full episodes of the show because, like, on YouTube, there's like individual shorts on there, and they have a couple of videos on there of like best of Liquid Television that were like the ones they put on DVD. But that's like a very, very tiny minority of the series, so...
Damn, this thing looks cool. That has the feel of, like, 90s superhero comics and stuff.
Yeah, I love the style for it. It's awesome.
Nice.
Oh shit, I've heard of this guy. His name's Jim Mafood.
I don't know who that is, but okay.
That's who did Disco Destroyer.
Oh, well, alright then.
I'll have to look up some of his other stuff.
Yeah. So, Liquid Television, the one thing I know it for is because it was used as kind of a launching off point for a few of MTV's future shows. And the first one we'll talk about is one that you both really like.
Da, 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 da.
That's beautiful.
That's the theme song.
There you go. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Beavis and Butthead again.
Let's talk about Beavis and Butthead again for the third time.
Kyle, why don't you start us off and tell us what you like about Beavis and Butthead?
I like them.
Would you like to elaborate further?
Why don't you marry them? You like them so damn much.
Sorry. No, this was pretty cool. It was a great show at the time.
It's a great show now.
Yeah, that too, but it was even better back then. But,
it spoke to the children of the 90s.
It did. Because The Simpsons around that time, they're around the same time. You said it was like 93, right?
Yeah.
So Simpsons had been on for like 3 or 4 years by then. But anyways, Simpsons was kind of getting some stuff from, I think the Bush family was talking shit about it.
Jeez.
Yeah, there was some controversy around that. But then like Beavis and Butthead came along and that was like even worse than The Simpsons. But
yeah,
as we said before, it's kind of a product of its time. It's not as offensive as it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very tame nowadays. But at the time, it was extremely boundary pushing. Like the first show to kind of do that was Ren and Stimpy. But then Beavis and Butthead came a couple years after and just completely blew the door off of that.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much accurate.
It used a lot of 90s slang, which I guess was kind of new at that time too. Stuff that people wasn't really on the TV, saying stuff sucks, and I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
and all the kids were saying they needed TP for their bungholes.
That too.
That classic slang.
That catchphrase didn't get old. But no, I mean, I agree that I mean, a lot of MTV shows over the years have like really managed to stay like on top of, you know, popular culture and like modern day slang, because you know a lot of like Beavis and Butthead and like Daria, and some other shows they broadcast over the years, like it just manages to somehow, going through the network animation process, still manages to like pretty much be on top of the times somehow.
They were very in the now, very, very current at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess it kind of helps that the fact that a lot of Beavis and Butthead was taken up by them commenting on music videos. Because obviously that was back in the day when MTV still showed music videos all the time.
Honestly, while I love the cartoon segments of the show, I think the music video commentary is what they're more known for.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that's kind of the more iconic part of the show that people remember.
Yeah, I mean, they were basically taking the piss out of like popular, well-known artists at the time.
Was this before Mystery Science Theater or after?
I want to say after, but I could be wrong.
I think it might either be a little before or around the same time. So I know Mystery Science...
is this like a new concept at that time to like kind of riff on shit, or I don't know.
I mean, I think that was just a thing, you know, that's something you just do with your friends, that you just do. Mystery Science Theater started in 1988.
Well, there's your answer.
All right, so no, I guess.
I knew it was either before or after. It was definitely one of the two.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think just like the feeling of sitting on the couch with your friends, shitting on, you know, television, I think is just a universal kind of feeling that anyone can really latch on to.
It's a very relatable concept that never goes out of style.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still
Even
do
to
that
this
at home
day.
right now.
Exactly. We do it in the cartoon streams I do.
Yeah, and that's great. If you're not tuning in for Dustin's cartoon streams, what are you doing with your life? Follow him on Twitter.
Living them in a very worthwhile manner.
You're not staying up till 5 in the morning like I do.
you guys doing not being up until 5 a.m. watching Da Boom Crew and
Brace Face?
Brace Face.
An adult party cartoon.
They're horrible, all of them. But one thing I really like about Beavis and Butthead, in case you guys didn't know, I really like the gritty, early, rough, ugly style of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree that I think like you were saying before, that the grittier kind of cell animation that they did back in the earlier days definitely lends itself more to its style of humor and I'd even say character design.
Yeah, the very gritty tone of it works with the ugly animation.
Yeah, because when they rebooted it, I thought that the clean digital animation is just like, it's too clean for this setting.
Yeah, like, it's not that it looked bad, it still looked great, but I feel like that early gritty is the best word I can use for it, because it definitely does not look like a very clean show.
Right.
But I feel like that worked a little bit to the show's advantage that the reboot didn't necessarily have.
Right. It's like, Beavis and Butthead is one of those shows where you just need to take the animation and then just throw a bunch of dirt on it.
Exactly.
It's dirty. So yeah, it's I like Beavis and Butthead fine. I like the sense of humor. But it's one of those things where I can only do so much at a time.
Hello.
It's yes.
Oh, it cut out. My thing cut out. Lost a bit of recording, but it's good. It sounds like you guys are talking, and I'm silent, so no worries. Okay. I'm recording again. Yeah. We're going back. Cool. Just cut this part out.
All right, good stuff. Yeah. So, I Beavis and Butthead it's fun. But it's kind of like dumb brand of humor is something I can only take so much of at any given time.
But can you stand the movie?
See, the movie is the way I described the movie last time is, I feel like the Beavis and Butthead movie it's a completely separate movie that Beavis and Butthead just randomly kind of wander into from now and then. I mean, it's fine movie, and the whole part where they're hallucinating in the desert is like, amazingly animated.
That music video is the best part.
Yeah. But it definitely just feels like a very long episode of the show. And in
a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. And honestly, I can generally only watch maybe 3 or 4 episodes of Beavis and Butthead at a time, so that's about the length of a movie. So yeah, it's appropriately lengthed.
That's good. Yeah, I love the movie. I might even put it on again after this.
You said length.
Shut up.
Oh yeah.
I hate you both. Yeah, so that was cool, and it really kind of put Mike Judge on the map there, and he went on to make great things and some not great things, but mostly great.
Some good, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
Right?
We're not doing this again. I don't have the energy to do that.
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it for everyone to hear.
I'd rather talk about the next show unless there's anything else.
I thought that family comedy was pretty good.
Woo! But we were bringing up last time we tried recording this. We were bringing up favorite parts in the show, just some parts that stuck with us.
Yeah.
I hate to say it a third time, but the episode where Beavis chops his finger off, or it gets sawed off in wood shop.
Yeah.
And so they go to the hospital. The nurse asks to give her the removed appendage, and Butthead hands her the finger, and he says, "Hey, Beavis, I gave her the finger." And
it never gets old.
Yeah. I mean, I got a stronger reaction the first time I said it. I feel like
it's grown.
The third time I bring it up, it's like, I remember when you said that earlier.
Well, you know.
Have you guys?
I feel like being a little more cynical the third time is kind of good. It kind of ties into, because MTV and Beavis and Butthead in particular did have a sort of cynical edge to it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was just kind of the attitude of the 90s. It was very angsty, kind of cynical time.
It kind of it ties in very well.
Have you guys seen how Mike Judge came up with them?
No.
I think I've heard this story before, but I don't remember.
He was doing an interview on like Conan or something.
Yeah.
He said that they were based on kind of like bullies, kind of antagonists at school. And they would just they would just say stuff kind of like that finger line to them. And it was pretty funny hearing about that. But one of my favorite things, because it's literally me, is that it really literally is me.
It was him at the time.
In King of the Hill, they have that character Dooley, and he's basically Butthead. It sounds like him.
I mean, I think every time Mike Judge makes a new show, he always carries over some character from the old show into the new one.
I love Dooley so much.
You do remind me of Dooley a lot.
To us porco.
Like there's Tom Anderson, who is kind of the basis for Hank Hill in King of the Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that boy, I'll tell you what.
That was like scary accurate. Jesus.
Who are some other minor characters in Beavis and Butthead? I feel
Daria.
like that's something we didn't talk about. There is Daria.
Stewart and his family.
Stewart is funny. Oh yeah.
There's
Their whole family have funny voices.
There's the guy that they look up to, the asshole guy.
Oh, Todd.
Yeah, Todd.
Todd's cool. And all he does is like beat them up and break into their house and watch their TV.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of guy I aspire to be.
You should. He's a good role model.
There you go. Kids be like Todd.
I feel like Daria was a little different in this show than she was in her own show. She was a little more outspoken, a little more less sarcastic, more kind of blunt about how stupid they were.
And she felt more like put upon, where like I think she was more in the sense like she was trying to get people to understand, like, you know, they're stupid, shitty people, and I don't know.
While in her own show, she was a little more reserved, a little more introverted.
Yeah, I definitely think she's like a little more. I think reserved is probably a good word for that.
Even though we're saving it for another episode, I think it's interesting that you have a spin-off of a side character, almost like a background character, and it became its own thing, and he kind of just was like, eh.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Judge was just kind of like, yeah, you have my my wishes to do that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because Mike Judge had like nothing to do with that show.
But yeah, one more episode of Beavis and Butthead that always sticks out to me is the one where they wanted to get their ears pierced because they saw it was cool, and they needed notes from their parents to do it. So they leave for a minute and then come back, and they're like, here you go. And Butthead hands her a piece of paper that says, "Do it," signed Butthead's mom. and then Beavis hands her a piece of paper that says, "Yeah."
Yeah. That's amazing.
You know what's funny is both who are the movie reviewers? Roger Ebert and Siskel, yeah. They both really enjoyed the movie. They both gave it 2 thumbs up.
That's amazing.
They called them endearing.
I think that's probably the most apt description of Beavis and Butthead. They are endearing.
Honestly, I feel like that is a really good word to describe them, because, like, even though they're very stupid, even though they're very crude and crass. They're, I feel like they're so dumb that they're confident.
Yeah.
Like, they have confidence in themselves.
Yeah, yeah, you're so ignorant that you're ignorant to your own stupidity, so...
Exactly, it's undeserved confidence, but
they just
still,
kind of fumble their way through life without dying somehow.
Exactly. So you keep wanting to see their misadventures, despite them being very dumb.
Beavis was
How
crying.
are they gonna fuck up this week?
I love that so much.
But, what?
This is just like, Beavis was crying. It's like, shut up! No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Here come the waterworks. That's my favorite line of the revival. That's the one line and also the I understand your frustration episode.
Yeah, that one was my favorite.
Like that, we were saying earlier how when they brought it back, it's like they didn't skip a beat. It still maintained the humor, maintained the style for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something a whole lot of cartoon revivals can do. I feel like it's really... When I think of revivals, that's the one I look at that stayed as good as it was back then.
I feel like Futurama just wasn't that great. What about you guys?
Yeah. I love classic Futurama. I feel like it did not capture that same humor when they brought it back.
No.
Like, it wasn't awful, but it also wasn't very good.
It was watchable. That's all I can say about it.
But that's a huge drop from classic Futurama, which was just so good I could watch it over and over again. So being watchable is still like a huge decline.
Are you one of those fans where you're like, yeah, it ended at Devil's Hands?
Well, I don't know. It's. I feel like I'd have to rewatch the revival stuff. But at the same time, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot it brought that would really need to be seen.
Yeah.
Like, but that I feel like Futurama's a subject for a whole different episode.
Oh yeah, that could be its show in itself.
I'm down for that.
Point is, Beavis and Butthead, it was brought back and it stayed as good as it was.
Fair enough.
I agree.
But let's move on.
Yeah.
Before something bad happens.
Oh God.
to Aeon Flux.
Yeah.
Another show which spun off of Liquid Television.
Yeah. So Beavis and Butthead and Aeon Flux are the two spin-offs from Liquid Television, and I'm the only one here who's actually bothered to watch some of it.
I've seen some of it. I've seen some of the Liquid Television ones, but not really enough to judge it or say much about it. So you've seen more than us. Take it away.
Watched it.
Am I the only one that's seen this cult classic hit? Get on my level, nerds.
I mean, I'm not even saying I've watched all of it, because there's 3 seasons of it, and the first season is a bunch of 2-minute shorts, second season is a bunch of 5-minute shorts, and then the third season is where it gets into half hours. So I watched all the 2 minutes and most of the 5 minutes, and it's a weird show. Like I was saying before, that it kind of reminds me of The Matrix a little bit. Dustin, you were saying like cyberpunk is probably a good descriptor for its style.
I don't know if that's an accurate term, but that's the term that comes to mind.
I feel like it is. But basically the show is about this assassin woman who's constantly trying to infiltrate the bases of this dictator guy of another country. And it was really weird because I had to look that up because the first 2 seasons are virtually no dialogue at all. It's all action. It's all
avant-garde.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how Wikipedia describes it. It's interesting because the animation is it's realistic at some times, it's comic booky at times. It gets very quiet at some points, and at others it's like she's running through a facility mowing down hench people.
I heard that as she was mowing down hedge people, and that makes me think of a grass type person.
Well, someone's car's going off.
I know, what an ass. Oh, they turned it off. Maybe they heard that.
They heard us doing this podcast, and they were like, oh, geez, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. I don't know if Aeon Flux is a show for me, to be quite honest. I mean, I like the action bits, because I think it's very well choreographed. But especially for the episodes that have no dialogue in it, I found myself really struggling to keep my attention on it.
Yeah, I would be kind of bored if that was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, it didn't really strike me as the type of show I would be into. I still want to give it a try at some point, but
I mean,
when I look at it,
yeah,
it doesn't
visually,
really, yeah.
Yeah, visually it's very interesting looking. It's very much of the 90s. And it is weird that like the Matrix is what it kind of brings to mind, because the Matrix is on the complete opposite end of the 90s of that.
Yeah, it was the Matrix before the Matrix.
Yeah. So Aeon Flux is supposed to be like this really big cult hit show, and I just don't know if I care for it.
I feel like the animation is the one part that I would be interested in, just because it's so weird and crazy. But yeah, the general, like, I'm already not a super big action show fan. Like, I like some, but a show that is like all action might not be for me. But I'll give it a shot at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty to look at, so
Kyle,
I'll give it that much.
Kyle, you were saying the other day that they made a really shitty movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot who plays the main character.
It's Charlize Theron.
It's one of those ladies that people care about.
Yeah.
I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I've never seen it, but I heard it was poorly received.
Yeah. I heard not too long ago that it was gonna get a video game, but it got canceled and retooled into something else, I think.
Interesting.
But yeah, that can be said about a couple shows on this list.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a few scrapped video games of MTV shows.
Was there an Aeon Flux comic?
I don't know.
I don't remember hearing about it, but I don't know. Something about that sounds like it could.
It sounds like a Dark Horse thing. Right. A lot of MTV stuff seemed like it came from Dark Horse comics.
Yeah.
The only thing I know from last time, the only thing I know about the series is the fucking eyeball. It is a Dark Horse comic. Holy shit.
Wow.
Dark Horse was like the big indie comic stuff around Image too.
Yeah. I was saying last time, Kyle, that the one piece of animation that you know is actually just the intro to the show.
Yeah, the fly in the eyeball.
It's literally just that, and then it flashes the title of the show, and then it starts.
That's the cover for the DVD too.
Mm-hmm.
It's iconic.
Yeah, that is a very iconic shot.
Yeah, I think that's like the one thing. Well, I mean, if Kyle's, that's the only thing he remembers. It's kind of like the big thing.
I'm looking up cosplay, and these women aren't wearing anything at all.
Yeah, the main character is very scantily clad.
How 90s?
Yeah, it's all about female empowerment, Kyle.
Oh yeah.
Was she the Bayonetta of her time?
Kind of, I guess. I mean, she's a scantily clad, very lanky, kind of badass woman murdering whoever she feels like.
Bayonetta is just
so yeah.
That's not who I'd go towards, but okay.
But anyone else have anything to say about Aeon Flux?
Not really.
The A and the E are together, and that makes its own thing.
They are together.
I think
they're involved.
I think that's a French thing, like alphabet wise.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
No idea.
Maybe we've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. Oh man, I'm gonna look like such the fool.
Such the fool. We'll all look like the fool.
Yeah, at least I'm taking you guys down with me.
There you go. So another show I want to talk about is a show I could really only stand to watch one episode of before I'm like, nope. And that is a show called The Brothers Grunt. Now, this show was made by Danny Antonucci, who would go on to make Ed, Edd n Eddy later on. This show is bizarre and disgusting, and that is probably the biggest two words I can give.
It was bizarre to be bizarre and disgusting to be disgusting.
I mean, it's so strange. I watched the first episode, and I tried watching the second one, and I'm like, I just can't do this.
The fuck
That's enough for me.
Yeah. But it's so weird because it's like, it centers on this like brotherhood or cult of these weird, like pale-skinned, veiny, very disturbing looking people. And none of them talk. Like, they have like a head brother or whatever, and he's like this fat guy who literally just rolling his tongue out of his mouth, but he's somehow talking. But none of the brothers talk. They just make like weird, like convulsing, squealing noises. And they're just constantly like shaking and like straining against their own bodies. It's very disgusting.
I mean, credit to MTV for giving it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, if I can, MTV, I can give it credit for at least trying something new, and I have never seen anything like this before.
Like we said, kind of the proto-MTV.
Yeah.
MTV was the proto-Adult Swim, I mean.
Right. But, I mean, the characters and plot aside, I mean, well, the plot of it is, like, there's this brotherhood, and one of the brothers gets loose, and a group of them are sent out into the world to find him. So that's basically what all the episodes are centered on. But what I found was really weird is because it's MTV, they have to incorporate some kind of music aspect.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So they would like just start playing music videos in the middle of it, and I thought it like was an interstitial between the show, like they're just showing a music video before the show went on, and then the characters just start dancing across the screen or reacting to it off screen. It was very strange, just like I'm watching like this old R&B music video, and one of the like the gray, weird, pulsy people just starts dancing across the screen on top of it. And I'm like, what the fuck am I watching?
So
that does sound funny, though, just having these weird, very bizarre designs on top of this music video.
I imagine this show would be real enjoyable if you were high as fuck.
So, I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but one of Danny's first works was Lupo the Butcher.
Oh yeah, I've seen Lupo the Butcher.
I've never seen it.
That was made in 1987, and apparently that's what got him to start working on The Brothers Grunt.
Oh, like the people at MTV saw it and asked him to make a show? Wow, The Brothers Grunt has a 3.4 on IMDb.
That's probably about right. It wasn't well. I was reading up on it. It apparently was not well received, which is why it only has one season.
I can't imagine why.
And I just want to know who at Cartoon Network saw that, and I'm like, yeah, let's have him make it a kid's show.
So, you said you saw this, right, Dustin?
Yeah.
So it's saying that it inspired Eric Fogel, and it says that he's known for Glenn Martin DDS, whatever. But
well, Glenn Fogel is the creator of another show later in the list.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, which is kind of awesome because it's like, it's almost like a bunch of shows are connected in a sense from who they know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be kind of like that late 2000s era of Cartoon Network where like everybody worked on Flapjack and kind of just like dove off into their own show.
Oh, that's true too.
Because it's kind of baffling when you look at that, like how many people went on to make shows after being on Flapjack.
Yeah,
it's astounding.
I'm looking at images of the Brothers Grunt on Google Images. Yeah, it's very ugly, but it also led me to something very interesting.
What's that? So
the Brothers Grunt crossover links. there's only a few, but there's apparently a couple references to it in Ed, Edd n Eddy.
I'm sure.
There's in one of the classrooms in one of the later episodes, the Valentine's episode. Oh, it's a deleted background. There's a jar with an eyeball floating in it labeled Eye of Grunt.
I think there's been a few times where that eyeball jar has been in the show, because I think Ed has it in his basement.
Oh, okay. And then in Ed, Edd n Eddy's Big Picture Show, the big finale movie, a sign mentioning Uncle Stumpy's Animal Park, a location in the Brothers Grunt, is seen.
That's funny.
But there's another little reference, and apparently Beavis and Butthead show up.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. That's what I want to remind. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, in the first episode, or wait, sorry, that's a different show. Never mind. That's a different show.
We'll get to it. But
we'll get to it.
That's why I brought it up. Is Beavis and Butthead cameo in a lot of other MTV shows.
I mean, it was pretty much their flagship show, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do kind of like cameo pretty much everywhere.
Even though Liquid Television was kind of their first, I feel like Beavis and Butthead is what kind of paved the way for them to greenlight other animated shows.
Oh, I agree. They saw Beavis and Butthead as like this really off the wall kind of show, and they're like, well, people want weird. Let's get weird.
We brought it up.
Yeah. So
we brought it up last
what were
time
you gonna say?
It was in the Jackass movie before the reboot. Beavis and Butthead made a cameo in that as like the beginning.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess this says a lot about the Brothers Grunt, how we're going back to talking about Beavis and Butthead during it.
Yeah.
It's not a good show. I did not care for it. Like
I'll give it a fair shake at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're trying to complete your MTV animation education, then you should watch it. But if you're just not a fan of like gross, disgusting, convulsing animation, it's probably not for you, because it's definitely not for me.
Yeah. Not surprising.
Speaking of shows that probably aren't for me, let's talk about The Head.
Okay. You said you watched an episode of The Head earlier, right?
I watched the first one.
Okay, I feel like you should watch a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
Watch a few more and it's not for you, then yeah, but I feel like you only really get the story. Like, it only gets going a few episodes.
Yeah. I think it would be a show that I want to watch a little more of, just kind of get more of the story. But my problem with The Head is, at least in the first episode, which is the only one I've seen, I don't like the acting at all. Every actor comes off as like some kid fresh into film school with zero acting ability.
I feel like that kind of gives it a charm. I feel like that, along with the animation being so rough, kind of like the early Beavis and Buttheads, I feel like that gives it a sort of a charm to it, that early MTV animation style.
It's kind of how I felt about Downtown, but that's a little farther down the list.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, I mean, it was so weird because like, the main character, he kind of like is mumbling through a script, and then when he gets mugged, all the muggers, like, I feel like they just walked into the recording booth, were handed a script, and were just like kind of fumbling their way through a script.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is, I'm not sure how accurate this is, but I want to say I heard this is, the first episode of The Head is another Liquid Television pilot. So maybe
it gets better in the next episode.
Yeah, there was probably some time in between that episode and the following episodes.
Well, then maybe I'll have to give it another shot. But The Head is just such a weird concept, because it's like this guy just wakes up one day and has an alien living in his head, which is now like 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it comes out and attacks people sometimes.
Yeah, so, I won't give too much away, but the general plot of The Head is this alien came from space, he's living in Jim's head to stop an incoming alien invasion. So this alien, this is a good alien living in his head that wants to. The alien's name is Roy, and he's not only is he here to stop the invasion, but he's going to help Jim kind of stand up for himself, be a man, be more assertive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a symbiotic relationship,
right?
Where they both benefit from.
I mean, I like the concept. I mean, it's kind of cute in the way that's like, oh yeah, well, for cute is probably the wrong word, but it's. I mean, the intention is nice, where it's like, hey, you let me stay in your head so I can acclimate myself to your climate, and I'll help you out with your life problems. So it's like, in that sense, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a sort of camaraderie between them.
I gotta say, I don't like the way Jim's drawn. I'm sure, like, the art style is kind of like hit and miss for me, but Jim especially, his face just weirds me out because his eyes are always like just bulging all the time.
Well, if you had a monster living in your head, I'm pretty sure your eyes would fucking bulge too. Don't judge.
That's true. But I think that's another thing that's only in the pilot. I want to say the animation, it's still kind of gritty and messy, but I feel like once it goes to series, they clean it up a little more.
I gotcha. So yeah, maybe I'll have to give that more of a chance.
Yeah, you should. I like that. From what I've seen of the head, I've only seen about half of it. I want to get back to it, but I like it. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite MTV show, but I've somewhat liked what I've seen. I like the characters. I'm interested in seeing where the story goes.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's not an episodic show. It's a serialized story.
Well, yeah,
at least
they're trying to
the first season.
Yeah, because they're trying to like figure out like what's going on with the other incoming aliens, right?
Yeah, they're trying to find the 5 pieces of this machine that'll stop the invasion that Roy is looking for. And so Jim is helping him find them while he lives in Jim's head.
Gotcha.
An alien comes, or I won't spoil anything past the first episode. You should definitely watch it. But yeah, they kind of rely on each other. I like that part of it. They go to different places around the world looking for the parts of this machine, getting into different wacky hijinks.
Wacky hijinks. That's the best kind of hijinks.
One thing I thought was interesting was that they apparently had a comic afterwards, not unlike both Beavis and Butthead and Aeon Flux.
Every show had a comic in the 90s.
Yeah.
Comics were big in the 90s, and then they crashed.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that much of the comic, but from what I have seen of it, it looks a lot better than the show. Like, it still has the same general style, but it's, like, way more cleaned up and professional looking, I think.
That's weird, because it's usually the other way around.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the head, I wonder if they had, like, new animators, like, fresh out of college working on it. Like, as their first show.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would recommend sticking with it at least for a couple more episodes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go back and give it another shot.
Yeah, like I said, it's not my favorite MTV show, but there's something there.
Okay.
There's something likable about it.
Sure. So I guess that kind of leads us to our last show for tonight. A show that Dustin and I like and Kyle finds highly confusing. Let's talk about The Max.
The Max. I love The Max.
So, I watched The Max last night. In its entirety.
And what did you think?
Yeah, in its entirety. They were all... It was like 10-minute shorts for 11 episodes, and then the 11th one was 20 minutes, but it had a 10-minute recap.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird thing to do, but alright.
It was so weird. I was just like, alright, I'm fast-forwarding.
It is a good way to kind of get a grip on what's happening in the story, though.
But it's like...
Kind of have it recap to you.
But it's like, if you're gonna watch the last episode of a show, might as well just watch the first one.
Well, I guess this is kind of... It probably lends more to how it was seen in the 90s, where, it probably was airing week to week. So, you know, when you're at the end of a series, you kind of want to sum up everything that happened.
Yeah, since it had been a while.
I'll give you
Yeah, it's
a
like
week
the
to
first
week.
episode aired like 3 months ago.
Yeah. Anyways, I love the art style for it.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful,
It
gorgeous
is
show.
classic.
It is like
90s.
the most. It is like the grungiest '90s comic-looking show you've ever
There's
seen.
a lot.
But it's
Well,
grungy in a different way from like the Head and Beavis and Butthead.
yeah.
Like the style is very grungy, but it's
like-
very very good looking.
It's not like the like alternative grunge. It's like the angsty grunge. Like this is like
It's very
Rob Liefeld kind of extreme
well,
grunge kind
it's
of.
very
Yeah.
90s indie comic. There's a lot of use of black, a lot of black, and
Oh yeah, it
there's a
is
lo-
real heavy on shadow.
there's a lot of silhouettes and stuff.
Yeah. How fitting that it's very much like a comic, since it was based on one.
Well, what
There
I
you
like
go.
about it is that even though I haven't read too much of the comic, I know whenever it's on screen, like, that's an iconic panel. They would take that panel
Yeah.
and then animate it, and that was pretty great.
I want to say, from what I've heard, it was almost a 1-to-1 match of the comic.
Yeah. The
So like what you see in the show is the comic.
And
I
see-
don't know how accurate that is since I haven't read the comic, but I
Well,
want to.
It kind of makes sense that you say that because there was a lot of internal monologuing from Max.
and the
Yeah.
monologue.
He's like almost like Rorschach from Watchmen in how much he
And
monologues.
see, that was a thing with it. There's a lot of monologuing, and I'm sure it was done in the boxes for comics.
Mm-hmm.
But since he's wearing a mask, or it fits his face, or whatever, I don't even know. I think it was a mask. But you don't know if he's talking or if it's in his head. And then at the end of it,
you never know if he's just.
well, at the end of what he says, he goes, "Shit, I'm talking out loud," and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's your only indicator that he's talking.
Yeah, he does that
And
quite
how
often.
cool is his design? How cool is that design of the
Oh.
man?
I do love the design. It is super iconic as far as a superhero goes.
The teeth, the claws, all that purple and yellow.
But
His giant feet.
Yeah, I was saying on the first recording we did of this how on the DVD commentary they were saying they had no idea how they were gonna animate his feet, him walking. Since in the comic it's fine since you don't need to animate it, but when you actually need to show it moving, they weren't sure how they were gonna handle those gigantic feet.
I like how they did it though, because he was like clomping around. That worked.
Yeah,
And I
it's
do
cool.
like there was a part where he's chasing an Iz off of the rooftops, and it was very The Tick to me. 'Cause the Tick likes
Yeah.
to jump off of rooftops. That's what it reminded me of.
I love those designs.
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
weird that there's like good and bad ones in a sense.
Like the good ones, the white ones are in the outback, and then when they're brought into the real world, they're kind of corrupted into the black inky evil is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they
But both are very cool designs.
he somehow got the good one to come out. I forgot what that was all about.
Right. Yeah, the Max is kind of hard to follow.
It was extremely hard to follow for me.
Yeah, it's a little high concept at times.
Exactly. I get it for the most part now, but there's still some little bits
But like
here and
the
there.
part where she's like, "All right," he took his mask off, and she saw a rabbit head, and I completely don't understand that.
I want to say I got it at the time, or I looked it up. I don't remember, but I'll need to watch it again.
Yeah,
But-
it's been a while since I've seen it too.
Was it because the rabbit was like her spirit animal, and that's what she was seeing?
Yeah, that's it. It's
Yeah.
because the rabbit was her spirit animal, and I don't remember if she saw Max as her spirit animal, or there was some connection to that.
But Max is her protector,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he is, and she is his jungle queen.
And he got hit with a Buick.
He did.
That story was dumb.
One part I like in the third episode when he's fighting with Mr. Gon. Mr. Gon, first of all, we said it on the first time, but he's a great character, but not a great character at the same time. He's an awful person, but he's very entertaining.
Yeah. He's a rapist.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. Even though it was on MTV, I was still a little surprised at the heavy themes airing on it in like mid-90s MTV.
Yeah, I mean, it dealt with like sexual abuse, it dealt with mental illness, and just all these kind of like heavy concepts for like what is essentially a comic book show.
Even though MTV was airing a lot of like adult shows at the time that did deal with, I don't want to say heavy themes, but they were more adult oriented shows. This was the first one that really delved into stuff like that, and I was like, geez.
Oh,
I feel it was.
I never would have expected.
As far as adult humor, a lot of their stuff was very immature in a sense, and this was pretty mature as far as like subject matter goes.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't rely on like kind of like lowbrow humor most of the time. And I wouldn't even imagine. I wouldn't even say it's very much a comedy at all.
It has some comedy,
like
a little bit here and there, but
yeah.
I'd bring that up
a lot. I would just, but it feels more like kind of a noir, kind of like one of those old noir films. In the way that he's like trying to figure out this mystery, and he's just monologuing to himself the entire time.
I can see it.
It's thinking about it. It's kind of like a stew of various. Like it's a comedy, it's an action, it's a noir, it's a drama.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, exactly, and I feel like it pulls it off with flying colors.
Yeah, it's got
Jack of all trades, master of all.
Oh, and then it's got that grungy '90s aesthetic to top it all off.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that they would focus on Sarah. She would be completely blacked out as a silhouette. Her hair was frizzy as fuck. There's so much detail in the frizziness of her hair, and then she just had white glasses. And those shots were all great. I love that style.
Totally agreed.
And something we brought up last time is that like this show isn't even like limited to just 2D. There's even bits of it that kind of remind me of like what Ralph Bakshi used to do, where they would like silhouette live actors and just put them into the show rather than like animating new characters.
Yeah, like the first episode with the policeman.
Right, yeah, it's just Max sitting in the back of a cop car and it's just showing him looking up into the front seat, and it's just two live actors silhouetted out talking to each other. So it's really interesting the way they chose to do that.
I know there's some use of CGI in the show.
There was a shot of his cardboard box. It was CG. It's like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, and I'm thinking of the one where it's him and Sarah talking on the like underneath the bridge.
Oh, that's right too.
Yeah, but yeah, gorgeous show. All the designs are cool.
I'm wondering if sorry, Dave. I'm wondering if Mr. Gon was kind of inspired by Spawn, because his cape was very Spawn-like.
Oh yeah, the way it kind of oozes out into
maybe.
like these.
I love that whole fight scene in the gas station.
That's what I was gonna bring up earlier before I got sidetracked. How you killed my hostage.
Yeah. And he was like, how'd you know it was a CPR dummy? He's just like,
Dummy?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I do like that it, like, rather than showing, like, a lot of superhero stuff at the time where, like, these superheroes are just, like, these amazing badasses, and it just shows Max that he's technically a superhero, but he kind of, like, bumbles through his duties a lot of the time.
He's more of a pitiable figure, because he lives in a box in the alley. People think he's just a crazy hobo.
I noticed they didn't really show blood in the show, because there's a part it's based on one of the panels. It's where all the Izes are holding him down, and he slices them. And in the comic, there's a fuckload of blood, but in the show, it's almost like they censored it with black. Where they made the blood black instead of red.
Honestly, I kind of like that. It kind of makes them feel more otherworldly. I feel like it works a little better.
To me,
I agree.
To me, it feels comic booky, like almost ink splotches, where you're doing something like that.
That's why I love the Twisted Is designs, as they look like beings made of ink.
Yeah.
They're ink blots.
With the, like, blue shine on them.
I feel like there was a few references to other comics. Like, some are blatant, and some of them not too sure. Because I think there was Calvin and Hobbes, and one of the kids had a Hobbes figure. And I think he was wearing red and black in one of the episodes. And then,
that one's a little more blatant.
Yeah. The underpants people, the robbers, I feel like that was a take on the Batman. I don't know, like the mutants from Batman, where they're wearing like the shades and stuff. It really reminded me of
I know what you're talking about.
The carjackers.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, because the Dark Knight Returns was pretty popular around that time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was just kind of an homage to that, or if that was just its own thing. Could be both.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know that.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
And then David Feast had a thing in it, because they're somehow related.
Yeah, the crap on. That's so bizarre.
Was Cow and Chicken around the same time?
I think it might have been a few
Cow and
years
Chicken
after. It was like late 90s.
Yeah, Cow and Chicken was 97 and the Max was 95, so this was before it.
Oh shit. I know he did, and he actually drew in the comic for that part.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see that they incorporated that in the comic itself. Or the show.
That's so bizarre. And, like, he falls asleep in front of the TV and dreams about this cartoon he likes.
Yeah.
That's funny.
One thing I was going to bring up was, like we were saying earlier, how Beavis and Butthead cameoed in a lot of these shows. They cameoed in The Brothers Grunt. Butthead cameoed in The Head. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene in the Max where the Max is watching Beavis and Butthead.
Yes, I forgot about that.
He has good taste.
So,
there you go.
Can you explain a part to me?
Maybe. I don't consider myself an expert on the plot.
Okay. There's the part where he shrunk, and he's tiny, and there's an Iz chasing him throughout the apartment. And he ties him up to the, like, table or whatever, coffee table, and drops it. And then later on, they walk by a coffee table that's smashed on the floor, and it's like, did that really happen? Or... That's one of those things where it's very mindfuck of a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say whether or not. I think that confused me too when I watched it.
Yeah, it's this whole show is like, it really plays with like what is considered real and what's happening in Max's head.
Yeah. Like sometimes it's obvious, but other times not so much.
Right.
One thing I really like about the Max is, even though he's like really violent, he's kind of crazy, but you can tell that he's a good person. You can tell that what he's doing, he thinks he's doing for good.
Right.
You can tell that he's a good person underneath the mask.
If that is a mask at all.
Yeah.
Well, it is. Well, it's a costume, at least, because when he's fighting Gon, he's got white skin underneath the purple.
That's true.
Interesting.
But the designs in the show are all great. I love the Max's design. Julie's design is great. The Mr. Gon, just every part of this show looks great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Max's... It's one of those shows that I just kind of watched on a whim a few years ago, and it's just like, whoa, this is so different from anything I'd seen before.
Yeah. I first saw it when this was like a long time ago, but my mom had a coworker that I guess she knew I was really into animation, so she let my mom borrow a VHS of the Max for me to watch, and I was a young child at the time.
Oh, jeez.
So I didn't get anything. I think it was like the first 3 episodes, I want to say, maybe more, but
It's not too bad, I guess.
But, like, yeah, I didn't have any idea what was going on. But even then, I loved how it looked. I loved the style of it. I thought it was very cool, very atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made me go back and watch through it all as an adult.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because I have a newfound appreciation for it.
Yeah.
And
like
like we were saying the other night, Kyle, you were saying they were selling action figures of him for like $7 on eBay. I'm definitely gonna get me one of them.
They also have a statue of him too, and that one's pretty cool as well.
Oh, really?
It's like a tiny maquette of his Outback design, and I think he's fighting the Izzes, but those ones are a bit more expensive.
Oh yeah, something like that's bound to be.
Those are around $100. It's not too bad,
Yeah,
but
that's all right.
That's not too bad, I guess.
it's not as bad as
But
my fucking
it's also-
Sam and Max statue for like $800 on eBay.
Gee, I love Sam and Max, but
Not $800.
yeah, I would say maybe $100 at most for me. I would be all over that, but $800,
I'll pay $20. Not even worth it. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about the Max?
Oh, I got a
is-
lot.
Do you?
Not really.
It is weird that MTV even greenlit the Max. It's so different from all their other shows. Well, it's different and it's kind of the same. It does have that 90s grunge to it. Maybe that's what made them so interested in greenlighting
Well,
it.
I think if I remember right, they kind of paired it with the head.
Yeah,
and I think
which
they
is
do kind
even
of make
more bizarre because they're
I think where, the Max is more, kind of serious in its tone, and I think the head kind of doesn't take itself too terribly seriously. I think it's kind of they're good counterpoints to each other.
yeah, I can see that.
I guess in the sense where it's like there's opposite tones that you can kind of like, maybe if the Max was first, the head would be after, so you kind of like, it's a little bit of a palate cleanser.
That's true.
I don't know what order they aired in or whatever, but
The Head aired a year before, I think, and it was its own thing then. And then when the Max came out, that they paired them together.
I think it's because they were just like kind of weird sci-fi fantasy kind of shows, and it's like
That didn't really fit in with MTV's other shows.
Yeah, because I mean, like Beavis and Butthead is more or less a kind of slice of life kind of show.
Yeah.
Well,
So it doesn't really fit in with that.
it's kind of how cartoons are now. You got a serialized cartoon that can't really do well in reruns, and then you have something where it's just its own thing every episode. You can
Where
replay
you
it
can
a
watch
lot.
them in any order you want.
Yeah, it's kind of how things go now.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'm really happy about, so MTV released both The Head and the Max on DVD a few years back. They're those like Amazon manufactured on demand DVDs.
Right.
But they look great. They're still totally worth your money, but so The Head didn't have any bonus features on it, but the Max actually did. It has it has commentaries on every single episode. It has behind the scenes featurette, talking to the people who worked on the show and the creator and stuff. I want to say it has one other bonus feature on it. I don't remember right now, but I thought it was cool that even though so long had passed, they still gave the Max some extra love.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that, so
Did they have
maybe when I get some money, I'd pick that up.
they have like animatics and stuff on there?
Maybe. Give me just a second. I'll go check.
Well, while you're doing that, so yeah, the Max was a pretty cool show, and if you haven't seen it before, I definitely recommend giving it a try. It's only like 12 or 13 episodes, and each episode's like
10 minutes?
11 minutes long, so you'll get through it in about 2 hours.
I sure did last
Okay,
night.
Okay, so the DVD, it just has interviews with creator Sam Keith and director Greg Vanzo, all audio commentary on all 13 episodes, and the bonus episode recap by Mr. Gone.
That works.
All right.
Oh,
It's still pretty cool, though.
one thing I wanted to ask you guys, any particular iconic scenes that stand out to you guys? Any favorites?
I mean, Kyle said it earlier, the whole gas station fight I think is really memorable. Just because it's like it's really the first on-screen confrontation between Max and Mr. Gone, and like the fact that they're just fighting and destroying this guy's car and wrecking up a gas station is kind of just interesting.
I like the laundromat where he comes in and it's just like his whole cape fucking takes over.
Yeah, it just kind of fills up the whole laundromat.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was so cool. And then he rapes her.
Oh.
Yeah, that part maybe not as cool.
Yeah.
But the cape...
What about you, Dustin?
My favorite scene in the whole series is when they're on the roof and the Max is cutting Julie's toenails.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it comes after a really intense scene where Julie had just been kidnapped by Mr. Gone, and she ends up killing him. But, spoilers, sorry. But, so it's this huge intense scene, and you learn about Julie's backstory, the really heavy themes of that. And it's just this really nice, serene image of just those two together on this, against the sunset. And I don't know, it's just a really cool visual. Just, the Max, this huge guy with these gigantic hands, just being so delicate.
Yeah.
Just clipping her toenails. And then she's like, you gotta really get in there. And then starts, like, biting it and pulling it off. And he's like, ugh.
That's classy.
Yeah, to me, that's probably the most iconic scene in the series. Like, in a series filled with iconic scenes.
Yeah. I like that one. It's really cool.
But yeah, that's all I really got to say about the Max. I've watched it, 3 times in this last year, and I'll probably watch it again.
I mean, when it only takes about 2 hours to get through the whole thing, it's basically just like watching a movie.
Yeah. Like, it's very easily accessible for that, but very unaccessible for the story. It's very, like you said, very high concept.
Yeah, so if you're really into some high concept 90s grunge, then the Max is for you.
I'll try to stream the whole series. I streamed a few episodes before, but I feel like that would be a good one to go through the whole series.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of a cool night to do that.
Yeah.
So unless you guys have anything else, I think that about wraps it up for this week's episode.
Do you think we should do one more? Because the first recording we did one more show. We did a couple shows, but would you prefer we save that for next time, or should
I think we'll cut it off just so we have some stuff for next week.
All right.
But yeah, speaking of next week, make sure you tune in where we'll be finishing up our MTV animation show series. I don't know. We'll be delving more into the 2000s and beyond, kind of
late 90s,
era.
early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. So come on back for that. That should be a fun time, and look forward to talking with you two gentlemen again about that.
I am not a gentleman.
You're a pretty, pretty lady.
Please.
Am I a pretty, pretty lady?
You're beautiful, Dustin.
Thank you. I'm glad someone noticed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are sorry.
Damn.
All right, guys. Well, make sure you tune in next week, and until then, we'll catch y'all later.
Peace out, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch a new episode every week. Also be sure to follow us on our Facebook and Twitter so you can keep up with the show. Links are in the description. We'll see you next week.